Okay, so I thought I would start out by showing you some different splatter techniques that you can use. Excuse me. The reason being that, for example, this egg, if you look at it closely, it has light, soft-edged splatter and then darker, harder edged, but it all has a somewhat soft edge. So I was going to say that whatever kind of splatter you want to do, practice it first. I already pre-mixed colors because I know you guys are all really pretty good at mixing color now. So I mixed this lighter blue, but I'm going to save it for when I do the demo on the egg. And I'm just going to put down, this brush was dirty because it had some of that on it. I was going to put down some water so that you'll see the diffusion. Diffusion is how far the water spreads. I'm actually going to do some water that is clearer. You can still see that. And this. Should probably use my larger brush, but I think I'm, and that's another thing, depending on when you add your splatter, it's either going to go really far or it's going to stay close, depending on how wet your paper is, how wet the paint on your brush is, because if it's a thicker mix, it's not going to move as far because the pigment particles are going to be heavier. So, more water, more flow. Less water, just soft edge. So I'm going to just use some of this color that I pre-mixed. And I have the lighters down here with more water, and it's more intense up here. So, you know, the temptation is to try to put a bunch of dots, but that's going to take you forever. And so one of the things that I recommend that you do is that you actually, instead of trying to, like, I'll also use a toothbrush later, but one way is to go like this. And you can see these are very light. And you can see that they're kind of dissipating. They're kind of big and light. So let's see, now this is drying more. Let's put more water on this one and do something different here. So this is pretty wet now. And this isn't buckling because this is 300-pound paper. You'll notice it's not part of a, well, you probably can't tell because it's, you can't see the entire sheet. So I'm going to take some thicker paint, heavier paint, and I'm going to drop it in wet water that is wetter. So this is why you need to practice. See, it was too wet here, too much paint on my brush. It doesn't do that anymore. But let's see if I want a different type of splatter maybe I can try picking this up with my toothbrush and doing this. And up here it's drier, and down here it's wetter. It's much smaller. Well, unless you drop on it. You can see how it's still moving a lot in here. If I dropped it here, I don't think it would move that much. But we're gonna, well, there it is. It is still moving a lot. So this could be a way of getting really mild splotchiness, which is something that I see in actually this egg. When you look up close at it, at the texture. But actually, you know, I'm going to do a demo on this because actually I think it has like this capillary action look, and there's a technique with salt you can do to get that. So I'm going to move to the eggs now. Well, I don't really have enough information. I really actually need to mix more of that brown. The way I mixed it was to use, I used this. And when I use this yellow, I think of it kind of like an orange. And so I mixed in some ultramarine blue with it. And you can see it starts to go brown, but it's really quite green. So I want it to be darker too, so more blue. And now some of the PR 254 red. Windsor red. What we're calling it. So I always test my colors. That looks brown, like in this egg. It's when I was going to do a demo of. So I think I have enough of that. And this is my blue. I didn't use that, so I know I have that. What I didn't try was splattering with the smaller brushes. You probably want to try splattering with different brushes and different wet moisture levels of wetness. Got some paint on there, but it's not in the areas that have my eggs in. So I have 3 eggs painted in, but I don't know if I'm going to do 3. I think I'm going to do 1 because I want to do the salt in that other one. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a clean brush, which means I have to clean my brush because I have the brown on here. And I always blot it and clean it at the ferrule. This is your ferrule. So when you're buying brushes, if you ever buy brushes, they also give you measurements. They give you the measurement of the ferrule, and then they'll give you the measurement of the length. Because manufacturers, you could buy a number 12 Princeton and it's this size, and you can buy a number 12 Da Vinci and it's going to be a different size. And it also depends on which model, because look, they have, this is the Heritage. A lot of them have number designations. So it's good to know your brush parts because of that. All right, I'm going to paint this one like this. Never seen that before. And then the other one like that. But I'm going to work more on the texture than the actual highlights and the way that one appears. And this one I'm going to work more on the speckled appearance. So I'm just picking up my blue paint. And I'm using this brush instead of the smaller one because I feel like I can control the tip better to really go along that edge. I drew the egg shape on a piece of paper, and then I scribbled with graphite on the back of the piece of paper, and I transferred the egg 3 times like that so that I wouldn't damage my paper. If you watched the last demo and you see where I scratched the cat hair off, it left an imprint on the paper. It feels a little dry. I'm going to put more. It was also felt a little light, the color. So I might try to put in some shadow, darker areas. So that'll probably spread, and might move this a little. And I need to let this dry a little before I try to put any. And I might use this smaller brush to put some background lighter speckles that are going to have really soft edges. So I'm going to put this color on now. And I want to clean my brush first. I have 2 jugs of water, one with clean water and one with the water that I'm cleaning my brush in. So right now I'm putting it in the clean one after I clean it in the dirty one. So now this is the other. That might be too strong. That might be okay. Not sure what that is. Looks like some paint. Oh, I kind of went out of my egg. And I kind of want to keep all these edges wet so that they don't form hard edges. It had a highlight up there. It can be controversial for really hardcore watercolorists about like lifting. There's a certain school of watercolor that believes you don't lift, you just leave the white of the page. But I like to try to do what I can to get it as close as I can. I picked up a little bit of water in my brush, and I'm going to leave that like that, and I think at some point I might put a little bit of blue in there but I'll have a little bit of backwash there. I might just go over the egg. And remember I said about the texture on this one was something that I was interested in, and I could drop some water, but I want to do some of this. I need some salt, but I think I need to do the salt now. So I'm going to put some salt on here and see if I get a little bit of that texture that I was talking about. And here, I might have gone too long, but I'm going to use the smaller brush, and I know it's clean because I cleaned it. These colors seem to unmix on my palette, and I have to remix them, and they kind of did that too on my paper. So the other thing is you might want to cut a template so that it doesn't splatter everywhere. I usually do that when I do this demo, but I forgot to do that. So I'm kind of gonna just do that. Maybe it's a good thing that I waited that long. They're still soft edged. I probably could have maybe gotten one layer of really light, softer edge, a few, but I think this will work. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit more, and I got some texture. Whenever you put salt on watercolor, you have to let it dry and then you remove the salt. So I wouldn't take that salt off till tomorrow. So I'm not going to do anything else to this egg because I don't want to add more water to it because it's going to disturb the salt patterns. Whatever I do to it, I'm going to post it in the announcement with this video. So this might not get posted right away, might get posted tomorrow, but I'm going to post this video tonight. So I'm letting this dry a little bit more so that I can put some deeper, darker, or some, let me look at the reference photo again, yes, some darker, kind of bigger ones. So while I'm waiting, what I think I'm going to do is test. Although I don't have anything that's really that wet. But let's just see if I let that dry. I'm just going to do it on dry paper and it'll be close. So if I use my larger brush with this brown pigment, and I think I need a little bit more red because I keep picking up some of that orange and more blue. And let's see. I don't want it to be too wet, but let's see now. Oh, I think that's pretty good. It could be a little bit bigger. Maybe more paint. Yes, more paint. All right, I'm going to mix a little more paint. Red. Ultramarine glue. And this yellow that was there from some other mixing I had done. So I mixed more so that I can have a good wetness on here, I'm going to do one more test. And I think it's also how much force I use, but I don't want to get that line. So let me see what happens if I try using, and I'm not giving you all the possibilities, I'm just showing you how testing things really helps. So maybe if I do it, that does the same thing, too hard. Okay. I think just wetness. I don't think doing it too hard works well because it doesn't let the pattern disperse very much. So I think I'm going to use the toothbrush. And that has paint on it, so I'm going to use a different brush. It doesn't have paint on it. And sometimes when you feel like it looks good, you just don't do any more. I think that I should have let it dry more because these are too large or have less paint on here, but I think I can get away with that. I think it's egg-like. I think it, well, sort of resembles that. But I'm not going to try to fix it because this is just not that kind of painting. So, might look a little different when it's dry. That's what that looks like now. That's what that looks like now. And I'm going to end the video.